Hi, everybody. Welcome to our final episode of A Fern Between Us, episode 100.
This is pretty exciting. We're going to open some bubbly.
And you meant to say
sad.
We are two of the four owners of Bebach Winery. That's Jesse. I'm Michelle.
And happy Thursday to y'all.
Yeah, happy Thursday. It's been 3 years of us celebrating wine and booze and current events with you guys, which has been pretty amazing.
What was the date of the first one? Do you remember?
The date was March 26th of 2020.
So just about 3 years exactly.
Exactly.
3 years and 2 weeks maybe?
Yeah. And, whoa, what are you doing?
There you are, my baby.
You're filling it so far up.
I know, I'm so excited.
Did you know the reason why you don't fill your champagne glass all the way up, which I didn't used to know, I always wanted it to the tippy top, but, you know, hey, sommelier school, you actually want to keep it cold. So you pour a small amount so that then when you refill, you aren't having warmer wine, you know.
Fail number 1 of episode 100.
Cheers!
Cheers, you guys.
Congratulations.
Cheers to you guys, too. Thank you.
All right, so we're going to just have a little, you know, reminisce, repeat some of these questions that over the last 3 years have been pretty knockout questions. And let's start off with, is there a memory or an episode that you particularly think of fondly or stands out to you?
That's interesting. I haven't heard these questions, so I may not exactly.
You know how I like to roll.
I'm with some of the fans that the mezcal tasting in Mexico in the fall of 2020 was an awesome one, just because of the faces. The torturing of Michelle, I guess, is really what it comes down to. The torturing was fun. There's been lots of ones. I've really liked the ones that weren't just about wine sometimes. Mm-hmm. It seems like, wine adjacent or drinking culture adjacent or whatever. Yeah. It has been kind of like, those ones are more fun. But also, I just like talking about all this stuff. So, I mean, to me, they've all been fun. It doesn't mean I always feel like doing it at 5 o'clock in the afternoon on every Thursday. But
that is true. It has been a long 3 years of
that's the
talking
hardest part.
him into it.
But as soon as I'm doing it, I'm always having fun, which is kind of cool. What about you?
It is. It really has been. Honestly, when I went back over some of the very first episodes, everybody was stuck during the pandemic at home and having a little cabin fever. And so I think it was something fun for us to do. Yeah. And so there was an energy there that was really fun.
Yeah.
And we were really enjoying ourselves. And the production value was not great, but it was actually some of my favorites.
Yeah.
And it didn't look bad per se. I mean, it looked like we were filming something in our living room, which we were, and that was the whole point.
Which we were and are.
Yeah. Now I just tried to spruce it up a little, but so that was really fun to revisit and talk about Raw. We were all over the place, but really funny. Anyway, so speaking of the pandemic and people stuck at home, we had a captive audience, so that's part of why this show became so popular, and we had really big viewership and reach, which is huge. So it's really encouraging. And so, we had some of our most popular episodes were 1,500 people with a reach. That's fantastic. And it's not like we were paying to advertise or doing anything else. So it was just homespun, and that was with Dr. Luke, one of our best friends, and he did a Zoom, which was super ghetto on our computer, and told us about...
We had several of those early on.
Oh, we had so many of those. And so that was really cool. He was telling us actual valid information during a really scary time that we were all very confused. Looking back, we feel like we know all of this, but we didn't at the time. That was really cool.
Right.
And then Johnny V, he's been on our show before. We do a lot of events with him. And then I also interviewed him around Christmas time, and his shows just are off the hook. Johnny, we love you. Thanks for making those episodes such a success.
And one or two of those were actually our very most popular, and that was this year, which I thought our biggest years were going to be the early ones. And in general, yes, they were, because we were all stuck, trying to figure out what to do and what to watch.
It was consistently really high numbers for reach and for full viewership, and so that there's no comparing to that. Right. But
we have had an occasional, and our biggest ones were just a couple months ago.
Yeah,
it's kind of cool.
It's awesome. You guys have really been traveling through this whole thing with us a lot. And one of the funny things that was reoccurring with the during that first year, it was so clear that everybody was stuck at home because all the questions were, what movie recommendations do you guys have? What should I be watching? What wine should I pair with what movie? What should I eat with which movie and wine? How should I top my popcorn for different movies? Like, it was all about what do I watch? And I think that's why you guys were always watching.
Right.
It was like, oh, great, something new for us to watch. That was really funny. And then lots and lots of questions, of course, during the pandemic about homeschooling, online school, how to mediate that. Also, parents being at home with their kids 24 hours a day. That was huge.
Can I start drinking right away in the morning?
Man.
This is tougher than I thought it was.
And so much day drinking took place, which is really hilarious. And so now, people are like, what should be my breakfast wine? And these like funny things.
Nice.
And so I love just kind of thinking about that time again. It's almost a haze, but there's so much, and so many people asking us for marriage advice. I guess drink more,
Well, the pandemic did bring people together or make the decision clear that it's no longer possible. A lot more better relationships, and a lot more that had to go the wayside, I think, during that time.
Oh, man, right? Yeah. And we were just talking about some of the Zoom interviews that we did. We did a lot of those in the beginning.
Yeah.
It broke up the episodes and everything. And so, we had Ted Wired, who is somebody super special to me.
Right.
And to our family, and
therapist talking about grief and loss, which that was a big grief and loss situation, whether or not you're physically losing somebody, you're losing the
ability to
connection.
Leave your house there for a while.
You can't hug people. Wow, that was weird.
Yeah, and grieving all those little things. That was a powerful episode. And another sad one. Our friend Red, Michael Wagner, we interviewed him, and he's no longer with us. He owned a sec and was a wonderful chef and personality in Taos, and just the life of a party, any party, right? But that was really interesting, trying to help people that have now been cooking all the meals all day, come up with some new inventive things. That was awesome. We had your cousin Deanna on.
Yep.
She's a ballerina, and she gave us some advice on how to kind of stay fit while just working out in your living room. And we had Greg Blackburn, your other cousin, your mom's cousin, and he spoke about NASA and the space station and his work there and the new stuff that was happening at that time.
And now there's all kinds of new stuff happening, and he actually was invited to watch the liftoff of Artemis.
So cool!
And he went, and then of course, I don't know. Those of you following NASA, like it didn't go that time. It didn't go the next time. It didn't go. I think it was like on a fourth attempt. It finally launched. I don't think Greg saw it, but.
I know
live.
I know he saw it, but I don't know. Now I can't remember.
Cool stuff like that.
Man, so cool. We had advice on marriage and travel tips and, you know, these people that this is what they do for their livelihoods, Zooming on our little ghetto setup so that we could share all of this amazing stuff. And we even had Elf on the Shelf one year. We had the real live Elf on a Shelf.
That's right.
And
I'd forgotten.
Those
two were wacky.
Oh, they were so
Man,
funny.
that was awesome.
They were smoking cigars and drinking and
tons of bad ideas.
shenanigans.
Those guys. Yeah.
Yeah. That was one of my favorites. That was really fun.
That's a good point. I had forgot about that one.
Yeah. It's always fun when you know actors and they want to play. So, you know, we've just had so much fun and interest in. We've even taken the show all around the world with us. When we went to Mexico, we've been to Bali, we've been, I would even zoom in when I was like in Atlantic City.
Oh, cool, yeah.
And
anything from Europe? I mean, you've been to Europe a bunch of times, and we've been. We did one or two in Amsterdam, maybe.
Yeah.
And maybe again in Paris or in Strasbourg. I can't remember.
We have.
Oh, we did do one in Strasbourg for sure.
Right?
But
Yeah.
traveling is when it gets spotty, and we don't always have a Thursday afternoon at that exact time off. Oh, it's not Thursday afternoon wherever we are.
Yeah.
That's another part of it.
It gets very
Yeah.
crafty. All right. Well, so, you know, over 3 years, people wanted to know over and over and over again how to buy wine. How to buy cheap wine, how to buy boxed wine, how to buy splurge wine, how to buy wine for a gift, how to buy wine for a dinner.
It's the moment of consequence for most people, right? In
Right.
their wine drinking world. It's like, if I don't buy the right thing, then it's just the wrong thing for that meal, or the wrong thing for that occasion, or I spent too much or too little, or
Yeah.
it is a moment of stress.
It is. And just to revisit that a little bit, what do you think some of the top tips we've given, or, you know, that you can think of off the top of your head for, you know, when push comes to shove and you're trying to make a choice?
I always go for, well, like, I'm a student of yours as well. I always go for a deal. If I don't know anything, if I don't know, I mean, I'm usually in a genre, right? But within that genre, I'm like, okay, I'm looking for a bold red today. Then I'll go to the bold red sections, and for me, I always like something weirder if possible. And usually those aren't on sale, but when they are on sale, they're usually on a mega sale because they're just not moving because nobody's heard of Tanat or whatever it is, right?
Right.
And that's always the one that I'm, you know, I pick up a couple of those right away, and then, you know, throw a couple other things in the basket that I know that I like, you know. And,
Yeah, absolutely.
you know, shopping the deals, but also shopping the interesting stuff. I
like
either
that.
go with a region or a weird grape. If I see a weird region or a weird grape, I start looking.
Yeah, and I you know, one of those things that people are worried about pairings, and it's important that you start. If you know what you're going to make, then think about, like you're saying, a genre, right? This is a lighter dish, you know, or maybe a little more specific, like I'm going to make duck.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so then,
if I'm making something nice, I plan it several days ahead of time, plus the wine.
And so you think about that too. Okay, so what ingredients do I need to buy? You look up the recipe. Also look up great pairings with duck. I mean, we've got these amazing little systems that we hold in our hand. And so, you know, so then you know when you go to the store that you're looking for, you know, a Pinot Noir or a Nebbiolo or a Cab Franc or, you know, something in that genre where it's a little bit lighter.
And if you narrow it to a section, you can usually find what you're looking for. Because you know, as soon as it's one section, you're like, well, no on those, too cheap, too expensive. Okay, I'm looking in this realm, you know, like
exactly.
And you're and then you're like, ding, 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 and I don't know.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that one. Looks really good though. I have heard of that one. I've tasted that one, and I don't remember if I liked it, but I think I did, but I can't remember. You know, maybe one of each. I don't know. You know, but it's easy to narrow down to just a few choices, and then you can actually make the decision. Because if it's 100 decisions or 1,000 decisions, like how do you can't decide.
Absolutely. And then, you know, one of the big ones that a lot of people were asking, because I think a lot of people were drinking a lot more, was box wine. And there are actually some really pretty decent boxed wines out there.
Yep.
I encourage the imports a little bit more because if you like really dry wine, those are a little bit safer of a bet. But more and more people are making decent boxed wines, even in the United States.
Yeah.
And it really does save you a lot. But you also don't realize how much you drink. And that can be dangerous. We did.
Right? It depends on who you are. I mean, my mom or your mom, they might only have 3 glasses because that's just how much they want. But for the rest or for a bunch of us that could go all the way to 20 glasses in a night, without knowing how much you're drinking, without every time you have to open a new bottle, you're like, oh, yeah. It gives you pause for a second. You're like, okay, hold on. Am I going too far? Is this going to hurt tomorrow? That kind of thing, and if, if your right amount is somewhere in the 6 or 8 to feel good tomorrow, then box wines can be dangerous that way.
And, don't forget, if you do buy something that you don't like, you can turn it into a winerita or a spritzer. You can play around, and there's no shame in that. When we were in Bali, we tried some boxed wines, and we got real creative real fast. That was wild.
Yeah.
All right. So one of the fun questions that was on a Johnny V segment was, I'm sick of one-pot meals and refrigerator grazing, which I love refrigerator grazing. I'm desperate for a self-indulgent meal for one that is deserving of my best Zoom clothes, sexy makeup, and a nice bottle of wine. And this question really stood out to me because it's
a good writer right there, whoever wrote that question.
Yeah, I know. And I didn't, people stopped wanting to send in questions when I said their names.
Oh. Okay.
And so I didn't know who it was.
Yeah.
And I have some guesses, but, I'm like, God, man, who was that? Such a great question. And I was thinking it was maybe Robin. And it just really is a synopsis of a moment in time. Mm-hmm. All the elements of what that felt like is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And so what is your one person kind of splurge meal that you would make?
If I've got all day and I want the rest of the week to be amazing as well, because I always make things in Quantity, yeah. So we have leftovers of that thing for a while. And if I'm planning on doing a lot of different things, maybe I'll trim down and make, so it's only one day of leftovers or whatever. Mm-hmm. So that we're not stocking it up or whatever. But chili and Fritos, I had Frito pie in the house. I feel so decadent. It's so rare that you find it at a fair or a place. There's a few restaurants that I know of that have them, but I'm always lured away by the breakfast burrito. So it ends up being whenever I'm at a town fiestas or whatever, that I end up having an event, and there's a Frito pie vendor there, and
now,
half the time are good.
Don't know what a Frito pie is. We have a lot of fans that are East Coast and it sounds really weird, and it's not a pie. It is Fritos, Fritos, chips. And then you put chili, which is, beef, and it could be red or green.
Beef and red, or maybe it's just green, and it could be, usually, I like beef or ground pork, but beef really. Mm-hmm, or in our case, we usually put ground hunting meat, whether that's elk or venison or whatever.
I like beans. Some people feel beans are not the way to go. And then lettuce, tomato, onion, cheese.
Lots of cheese.
And it's amazing.
All in a bowl over
really
Fritos.
Healthy. Really healthy.
over Fritos. If you get the little one pack, one bag of Fritos.
Those are so cute when they serve it in the bag.
Yeah, they'll open it up and then so you got the Fritos down there and they'll just put the chili and everything on there and you're eating it with a plastic spoon while you walk around listening to music or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And it is
awesome.
Amazing. But it has to be made right and it has to be made by the right people. So out and about, it's a little hit and miss.
Really, is it specifically a northern New Mexico thing?
All right. So if you look it up online, there's a lot of like West Texas, they'll talk about that, but they make it different. They use like big kidney beans and it's not quite it's like the canned chili.
Yeah.
Rather than like chili
Texas,
the way we make it.
Texas
Texas chili. They're using
and it has
it's a different
beans
thing
in it and it's a very different flavor.
And I'm sure it's great, but it's
not what
to me.
We're
It's not a
looking
Frito pie
for.
exactly.
When
When
I'm
I'm craving a Frito pie, I'm not craving that. But as soon as you get to like El Paso, that's New Mexico enough, and it's great there, great all through New Mexico, and great into southern Colorado.
Well, I personally like to go really, really simple, but something special. So for me, that's either you can get those like fans of frozen shrimp that you can just defrost, and it has actually a great shrimp sauce that it comes with. And I feel like opening some bubbles and having that, he can't have shrimp, so it's a rarity that I bring into the house, usually when he's gone. And I don't want to kill my husband. And
Most
enjoy
days,
that
anyway.
and it's so simple. It's so delicious and feels like a real treat. And anytime I'm like, ooh, I'm eating like seafood, which I don't get that often, and having bubbles, which it's a special occasion.
All right.
Here's another question. Is there a wine that improves the taste of your partner's spunk? Do you remember this question?
I do remember that.
The way pineapple supposedly does. So we started getting so many naughty, I guess, questions, sexy questions. I don't know what the category would be, but one, I wondered if people were sending these in just to see if we would answer them, and we did. We answered everything anybody sent. It was a no holds barred. Whatever you want to know, we're an open book.
That's funny.
So we did find out that there isn't really something per se that you can ingest, but your whole being does get smellier with garlic.
Right.
And booze, like hard booze, if the person's been drinking all evening, and that can give the entire body a sour component.
Yeah.
So, these are things to keep in mind. And we also learned that when men become aroused, their olfactory is diminished.
Oh.
But when women are aroused, it is heightened.
Ooh, wow.
So that's kind of interesting too.
Yeah. We got to be careful, guys.
But so we didn't find out that there was anything that could change a personal flavor. But, showering. And during the pandemic, I don't think that a lot of people were showering. And, people would be like, oh, it's been days. And that will make a difference.
Totally. I mean, I can't imagine a lot of, if I be so blunt, I can't imagine a lot of like oral sex going on in the, say, Viking days or whatever. You know what I mean? Like when there weren't like showers and things like that. Like I'm sure it was pretty much the nether regions were the nether regions for everyone.
Right? That's funny.
I mean, I have to imagine.
It looked like they had a lot of fun in the show Vikings. They were doing
I
all
love
kinds
that.
of stuff.
And from here on the TV, you can't see it, you can't smell them. So like,
you definitely can't. And that couple was hot. I was like, oh,
well chosen great on your actors there.
Yeah.
I want to be a Viking now.
Right. But I also, so as I was combing through some of these lots and lots of sex questions, what wine to put your partner in the mood, and what wine should I have that doesn't make me sleepy, and so I can still woo, what are aphrodisiacs that I can pair with wine, and those are some really fun questions. Obviously a classic is to do bubbly with oysters. Always a good one.
Right. And does that actually, all right, I'm fuzzy on the whole aphrodisiac thing.
Okay.
Does aphrodisiac actually make blood flow better?
Oh, I'm really excited about this because I did a class on chocolate and wine pairing, and but it was reinvented, and I did the American Wine Society conference and national conference, and my point was to understand the chemistry that makes these combinations better, amazing, and what's happening. And so aphrodisiacs are supposed to heighten your senses of, yes, blood flow, but stimulants. There's also when they release endorphins. So if you're layering these things, then it releases multiple endorphin levels that create an excitement inside your body. Okay. And your brain is literally telling you, oh yeah, I feel good, which is why chocolate and wine is a really popular one.
What about oysters?
Oysters have zinc, and zinc is a blood flow enhancer.
Is there a difference between like bubbly versus red wine or white wine or something?
Carbonation often makes you a little more lightheaded quicker. And red wine has more phenols that can create more of what's the word I'm looking for in your brain? It's not the endorphin, but the it's a similar feel good kind of after you have a baby.
Endorphins.
No. And it helps you forget that you hated every minute of it.
Oh yeah.
Isn't it something with an O? Orgasm. No, I'm just kidding. It's anyway.
Maybe we'll think of it.
Yeah. You know what sucks is post-pandemic, I have COVID brain just permanently now, I guess. Anyway, so that is a really cool thing that this aphrodisiac kind of thing, certain things really do help get you excited and in the mood. So
right.
All right. So let's see. I also found, which I forgot that we had done this entirely, is that in the beginning when we had guests on, we would have Karen questions.
Oh man, Karen questions.
Oh man,
speaking of Karen,
sad.
look,
Karen.
She is putting on a little new little red shoot thing there. Maybe she's gonna have another
comeback
bloom. I don't know. We needed to have repotted.
Yeah,
lots
we
of
needed to
different
take
stuff,
care of Karen.
We never
did not.
Gloria's over here. She's feeling left out today.
Yeah, because
she still looks good.
I know,
but
she's sexy.
We thought Karen had to
come
make
in
one
for
last
absolutely
non-Fern visit.
So I thought I would ask you the Karen questions.
Oh, okay.
All right. So what's your favorite smell?
Favorite smell? God.
We asked these to all of our guests. Well, not all of them. It died off, but
honestly, I kind of feel like I love the smell of a barrel room. Actually, it's kind of like it's usually woody and funky and a little bit wine, a little bit vinegar. It's like it's kind of this dank.
Earthy kind of
earthy,
smell.
Deep, but there's lots of layers to it, and I just love that smell. To me,
that brings up the memory of being in Hungary in that
caves and stuff
that had all the moss on the walls.
Any of those ones where you're down underground, then that has its own ground smell as well, and I envy that so bad. We don't have it, but I just love it. It smells like it smells like art and a living, and
Ooh.
it smells like all those things to me, and I just love it for anybody. Like, I walk into somebody's space and I'm like, oh yeah, dog, you're doing it, like
That's awesome.
it just makes me happy.
What
about you?
Obviously you were in the right business, right?
Apparently.
Oh my gosh. I love smells, and when I lost my sense of smell with my first COVID, I realized just how much I value that sense.
Yeah.
And there's nothing like smelling a really amazing, interesting wine.
Mm-hmm.
There is nothing like the smell of my family.
Mm-hmm.
The top of my daughter's head still smells like when she was a baby. Oh, kills me.
Even though she's a disgusting teenager at this point.
She is not. And the nuances of, oddly, Jesse smells different when he goes bike riding and is sweating having gone bike riding versus going for a run, or weightlifting, whatever.
Or working.
Yeah, or
stress sweat.
Yes, stress sweat. It's very different, and it's really interesting that when my sense of smell came back, those were the things that I was really grateful to have again, because it's amazing what indicators are in your world that you don't even realize are sensors that you're picking up.
I also have a second one.
Yes.
For sure. And everybody in a desert can probably attest to this.
Oh.
Desert, the moment it starts raining in the desert, the smell that comes out of the ground is just...
That is amazing.
So incredible.
And it's like just as it starts, and it's like the whole earth around you is like, yes.
You got about 30 seconds
amazing.
to maybe 2 minutes of just pure pleasure, olfactory wise.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. All right, next is what do you hope someone will say at your memorial? Karen had some really good questions. Look at this.
And I have to answer this?
Uh-huh.
Let's see. He was a fun guy. No, I don't know.
Right? No. I mean, that is a tricky one. And they were meant to, you're not thinking about it. You're just what's off the top of your head. I hope people will say that I will be missed. I mean, that would suck if everybody was just like...
Yeah, I'm hoping I bring fun into a room, a little bit.
Yeah, and maybe leave like some kind of impact on the people around me.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, and in the second half of my life, I kind of want to be more, as generous as possible. I've been so purse-strung this whole time. Like, I want to be more generous, and so I'm hoping someday people will be like, that guy just gave and gave. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's cool.
But it hasn't happened yet, so we'll see.
What is the best advice you have been given? So not the advice you would give, but that has been given to you.
I heard recently, and maybe it's because it's recent that it reminds me, but don't stress so much about the stuff. You're all right. Everything's gonna be fine.
I like that.
I think if we're all not that stressed about stuff, like be cognizant, be aware, watch your news, do the things that you need to do to like stay informed and relevant, but like dwelling on stuff that's out of our control, besides a tiny amount of control, like that's stressing out, stressing out about bullshit is not part of what I want to do. And I think I think old people know that, like, don't worry, so you're all right.
Right? The older I get, I'm like, I promise this is not that big of a deal to people that are younger and they're really stressed and freaking out, and it's like, I know it feels really big when this is happening or that's happening, but my which I'm probably said at this episode when we had this question. And
I'm only pouring it that full. Is that good?
It's still a little high.
That's the foam. The other parts are.
Anyway, but back when our daughter was really little, one of our best friends, Dr. Luke's wife, Lindsay, actually, she said at one point, you have to parent the child you have.
Oh,
and it has
huge.
100% been my favorite piece of advice and made a huge difference, because it is so easy as a parent to look at other parenting styles or feel like you're not doing it right, or why aren't you getting the results that some other family is getting. And it's because you can't, it's not a one solution fits everybody. And
That's so
you know, some of the things that people were like, this is how you need to deal with your child. And we would try these things and it would just ruin our family and our household. It was like, this isn't working. So finding what works where you get the results that you're trying to get without doing harm, you know, emotional distress from like weird parenting tips that
it goes back to mine. Like, you don't want them to stress out, but all this pressure you put on them in this way or that way that isn't them, like that just adds to the stress. And I totally agree. I totally agree. At some point we realized, wait a minute.
Yeah.
We've got a unique situation here, and she's amazing and
brilliant.
But it's like the things that I know work on me to get me motivated, we're never going to work on her. And so like those were like, I mean, just banging my head against the wall and actually going backwards, like,
because,
you know, causing, you know, it's like, don't.
She's so smart that it actually worked out far better to calmly sit down and have an explanation in detail of why you were asking the thing that she didn't want to do, but didn't understand why I was asking it. Once she understood all the details and the behind the like thinking,
her main motivation was not to have to hear that shit again.
But then it was like, oh, okay, this part makes sense. I can understand that. I am willing to do this. Or she would say, that doesn't make any sense. And I would realize that this was not actually real good thinking through of something. It was, you know, I just want you to stop because I need a timeout. And instead we had to go all the way around, and she would be, you know, I still don't see how this correlates. And I would understand, oh, because it doesn't make sense. And what I should have said is, mommy needs a timeout. It's fascinating. Anyway.
That's good advice.
Yeah, that was super good. So what did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be an astronaut, for sure. And then at some point I also wanted to be a chef, potentially.
Oh,
and I still hold both of those in my heart quite closely. I really want to be a chef. I want to be way better than I am at cooking. I feel like I do good.
Yeah.
But I feel like
I love that you cook all the time. It's fabulous.
You know, and like anyone, I go through phases where, like, you know, for the last couple of months I haven't cooked basically that much, but you know,
like you have.
You know, every once in a while I go through a phase and I'm just like, I'll spend a couple hours a day just doing stuff, like, and it's fun.
It's awesome.
Yeah, I wanted those two things. Science has always interested me, but and I became a sort of a scientist. Like winemaking has a lot to, it's science adjacent at least. So
for sure.
So I ended up in a career that's absolutely perfect for me, but there's a few other paths I could have taken and been totally stoked as well.
Right. I wanted to be a ballerina.
Yeah. And
that is one of my regrets, is that I did quit when I was young. I was really...
when you went to Oregon, did you quit? Or when was it?
Yeah. Well, I did some out in Oregon, but... that
was junior high, right?
Middle school, yeah.
Middle school.
Yeah, exactly. And, but... You know, I had a really promising career as a child, so it's, you know, I can't help but wonder where that would have gone had I stayed doing it and really pursuing it, you know. But what are you gonna do? Now I have rheumatoid arthritis and I can't hardly move my knees. So
it wouldn't have been a career into your 40s, apparently.
Oh no. But yeah, I couldn't agree more that I definitely have the career that I I love. And
you seem to be made for this.
right? I had
for
no
all
idea.
your weird, quirky physical things or whatever, like your nose and your memory for your nose is second to none. You know, I mean,
yeah, I feel really lucky.
You're among the top in the world, you know, at doing this.
Well, I'm psyched that we've been able to create a career and all these amazing things have come my way too. And I never knew about judging, and you know, one little step saying yes, I want to be there helping you open the winery. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, reading every book and getting, you know, Psalm certified and all these things, it just rolled. And
we're at 40 minutes, they say.
You think you know what these steps are doing, but you really don't. And they build on each other. All right, what is your favorite word or phrase?
Sure. I'm sure I have them. What's yours?
Fuck.
Right? I mean, it's such a good, versatile word, and people that don't speak English are like, oh, god damn it, we don't have a fuck in our language, and it just sucks too bad not to have that. I agree. Any combination, I mean, you can pair it up with lots of different stuff. It's super vulgar. It means just all kinds of different things, everything from the worst to the best. You know, that's... We're kind of...
Yeah.
I have to agree more or less.
The other one
but
is,
I feel like there's a good phrase that I should be able to come up with.
The other thing that I think of is Shawnee, when she pointed out that I say, right?
Right?
And I had no idea I was doing that, and she thought it was hilarious. And then I became very aware. I say it all the time.
Yeah. I've got a good New Mexicoism that I like.
Ooh.
And it can be done with several different things. But we'll say, oh man, that's good, watch, smell.
Watch, smell.
Watch, smell. We say watch and then the thing you're supposed to do. And like that to me, oh, that's good New Mexico stuff.
I love it. All right, so I did want to hit some of our very first episode questions, because our very first episode, we hit the live stream, and it was supposed to record as well onto my phone, but we didn't know what we were doing.
So episode 1 is missing.
Yeah.
Off the record, nobody has it.
Yeah, those that tuned in that first time saw it, and then it was gone. So let's try to be a little quicker, but I do want to hit these questions because they're just so much fun.
This is fun.
Yeah,
I'm having fun here listening
to
reminiscing. This is awesome.
It is. So number six. I don't know why I'm
number
saying
six.
Yeah.
Number one of the first episode.
Yeah.
1.1.
Yeah.
Here we go.
How do you pick a good Chianti, and why did Hannibal Lecter pair it with fava beans?
Ooh.
Yeah,
I remember that.
I loved this. Do you remember what the answer is?
I can make up an answer now that I bet is similar to the one I made up then.
Well, let's just skip that then.
No. I think it's good. So Chianti, one of the best wines there ever was. Chianti Reserva, Classico, like these wines are just so good. They taste just like a little bit of irony, so they taste kind of like blood. It's so good. It's just umami, up the wazoo. It's like maybe the best, like across the board region that there is. I don't know, but and then fava beans are grown in their vineyards. Like literally, they plant legumes. They get enough moisture that they don't have to irrigate, and so they'll plant one row 1 year and use the say in between row 1 and 2 they plant, and then in between 2 and 3 they'll use to maintain row 2 and 3, and then 4 will be planted, and in between 4 and 5 so they grow, and then the next year they'll disc this section and they'll have the between 2 and 3 or planted. So, and that's always a bean, and it's usually fava beans.
I think that's awesome.
And they bloom red. It's so gorgeous.
That's a really excellent response. Also, the DOCG paper label that's around the neck. is what you want to be looking for because it's standardized levels of aging and what can be in the wine. And so that's the best way to really select a solid Chianti that is going to meet your expectations for that region. And then the Hannibal Lecter part is what I'm excited about. So we're big Silence of the Lambs fans. So I'm just going to read this little section. The quote from the movie is, "I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti." So Dr. Lecter was actually making a medical joke. Lecter could be treated with the drugs called, monoamine oxidase inhibitors, MAOIs. So sorry if I mispronounced that, but being a psychiatrist, Dr. Lecter knows this. The three things you can't eat while taking these drugs are liver, beans, and wine. So it was a joke showing insight that he was probably not taking his meds when he committed this crime. In the book, he actually said that the wine should be Amarone.
Oh.
And that would have been a perfect pairing with liver, not Chianti, which actually clashes with the flavor of liver, which is really interesting.
But nobody, or a lot of people don't, especially in the 90s, knew about Amarone in America.
Who's eating liver on a regular basis and then thinking about the wine pairing anyway? I mean, like,
and then knowing about Amarone too.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Chianti, we all know Chianti.
So this indicated his sophistication and attention to detail and pairings and culinary arts, right? In the movie, they changed the line to Chianti because they didn't think anyone would know about Amarone, and Chianti everybody was familiar with because of the basket style cheap Chianti.
This is a long time ago at this point.
Yeah.
That's really fascinating. That's
Isn't
awesome.
it? I love that. That would be...
I failed that test, but that's all right.
No, I thought that was very interesting. That was a good thing that you added in. And that would have been my dad that sent in that question. I loved it. It is so good. All right. The next one was, what are good Easter candy pairings? And, you know, it's so funny because here we are coming up on Easter on Sunday. Bubbly. Do a demi-sec bubbly. All your sugary treats are going to be, you know, really combating anything that you...
And demi-sec, the word sec means dry, but demi-sec means like off-dry, but it's a pretty sweet wine.
It is.
But in the morning with your candies.
Yeah. Yum.
Speaking of, there's like a really good, I read this morning, a really good New York Times article on the making of Peeps.
Oh!
It is fascinating. They have lots of pictures and stuff. It's totally rad. Check that out. Anyway.
Is it made out of insulation?
It's just marshmallows and sugar, but, well, the eyes are, you know, an edible plastic, but it's okay.
Ew!
They're just tiny little dots.
They are awful.
No, yeah, they're totally awful. But the people that work on the lines, they say they're amazing right off the line. But, you know, we always get them stale, so.
Oh, that's funny. Interesting. Okay. Can you toast a peep? Like, maybe that would be better.
It probably would. I didn't read the whole thing, and I also don't know. But I would assume the sugar would get in the way.
What a tease!
I'm sure the sugar would get in the way. It would start melting. The sugar would probably remain granulated, I bet. But
okay.
I don't know. We should try it.
Maybe. When you were a kid...
Denali didn't like that answer.
Yeah. When you were a kid, what did you imagine this age to be like? Denali's very distracting today.
When I was a kid?
Yes. What did you imagine this age to be like?
I don't know. What does when I was a kid mean? I guess I looked at my parents and was like, they seem like they're doing fun, doing good, having fun.
Mid-40s seemed old.
Definitely old, definitely way old, but not boring, but like a little boring, like a little dumb. Like why, what, you know? Like what's the point at that point, you know? And now I realize there's a decent amount left if we're lucky, and I'm having more fun than ever. So I don't
Right?
know.
Well, yeah, I definitely had.
All your stories, though, all the stories come from your like teens and 20s.
Yeah.
So are we like really like how many new stories are we piling up? But we are. I don't know.
I think we are.
I totally think
We
we
do
are. Yeah.
fun
no,
stuff.
you're right. You're right. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think I was wrong when I was a kid. I know I was wrong.
Well,
when I was
yes,
a kid, but
right. But I definitely recognize some of the signs of things that I thought, I thought this age was far more settled. I guess.
Yeah. We're
And
still
I
just
don't
winging
feel,
it.
Yeah, I'm like changing shit every other day. Like, I don't know who I am.
Hopefully, you're always winging it, right?
Right.
For your whole life, you just find new and interesting stuff to do. If not, maybe it's at least comfortable and fun that way. I don't know.
All right, we've got two more. What is the best breakfast wine, which I mentioned earlier? I love that. And, I'm actually going to do a class at the American Wine Society this fall for breakfast wines.
In St. Louis, Missouri?
Yes.
Yeah.
National conference, beginning of November.
Let's go Death Arch.
But
We almost died in the arch, by the way.
I'm going to reinvent the breakfast wine. It's not just a mimosa. There are so many other wonderful wines that go with breakfast. So is it
Also-
mean to say you
also
have to come take
Prosecco.
my class?
Right? Totally. Also Prosecco. Prosecco is awesome, but especially in the breakfast setting, you get later in the day, you're like, is this that good?
Yeah.
That'll be interesting. So what are you going to say?
Whoa.
I mean, you have to take the class, obviously, but
Yeah.
whites, rosés, no reds? Is there any reds?
Yeah.
There'll be reds.
There's going to be reds too. And I think there's a lot more interesting wines in the white sector that are really food friendly, especially there's lots of flavors in breakfast foods,
Yeah.
right? So exploring that I think is super important. One that I'll just throw out there, I think it should be explored a lot more, is an Alsatian Riesling. Great minerality, this earthy, slate, rock kind of component. They are not sweet, but they do have some great fruit components, a zinging kind of acidity. And that it makes it so great with all of your many different dishes where you've got eggs and bacon and creamy sauces and potatoes and it can really grapple with all of these things. And
A ham omelet would be insane. Mushrooms.
yeah.
Like,
So now I'm drooling.
All right.
All right.
Now I want to drink in the morning too, guys.
And finally, what book would you pair with these rosé wines that we were tasting on our first episode? Our rosé of Sangiovese and our rosé of Cab.
Book would I pair with it? Oh man.
Cash by Johnny Cash.
Maybe I haven't started reading it yet though, so I can't speak to that.
Ooh,
That's probably whiskey actually.
I would. Oh yeah, that totally would be. I would pair it with my book about Prince Harry.
Oh yeah.
Spare,
the new one.
yes.
Yeah.
I think that goes with both of those rosés.
In the morning, or am I still thinking the last question? Okay. Rosé with Spare. Well, he's redheaded. That's why you're thinking that.
I was thinking that there's lighter components that are fun in his stories, and then there's some darker components, which is more like the rosé of Cab. But it's not far off from his experience,
Yeah. All right. I'll do like something different, like maybe one of these adventure books, like Wild or whatever, where you're deprived from your ability to drink on a daily basis because you're in the backcountry and you can't carry that much weight, and everything you're carrying is, which I'm preparing for now.
Yeah, I was going to say, because he's going to start riding the Continental Divide and he can't drink while he's out there?
All you're going to do is think and think and think, what would be good now, and when you're thirsty, you want a white or a rosé, because it sounds refreshing, kind of like beer, right? Like
Oh,
if
that's
you're
a
a
good
beer
point.
person, you're thinking of beer. If you're a wine person, you're thinking white and rosé. You're not really thinking Napa Cab.
Yeah.
And so I can imagine, daydreaming about that while I'm reading the book and be like, oh, I do have one right now. But if I was that person, I would not. I'd
That's
enjoy
awesome.
it more.
I like it. So many amazing moments over these last 3 years, you guys. Thank you so much. We love you all. Thank you for the support and enthusiasm. And
We couldn't have done it without all of you guys, of course. Chris and Lily.
yes,
Our partners in crime on this whole
Yes.
winery adventure.
absolutely. Our family, a lot of our friends, and
Yeah.
thank
Of course,
you,
all of our
everybody.
guests that we had over the
Oh my gosh, so
years,
many
yeah.
that I didn't get a chance to list all of you, but thank you. And this summer, look forward to finding some kind of new way that we can engage with you. And
We're going to do
Karen,
something.
it's been real.
Karen, it has been real. I guess that, yeah, exactly. Cheers, you guys.
Cheers.
Love